My name is Gabriel Sanders. As you heard, I'm the Director of Housing and Community Development for the Monterey Bay Economic Partnership. Matt Huerta will be moderating our esteemed panel. I'm just going to give you a little update on what we've been doing for the last year or so. If you're wondering what has changed, our housing initiative used to have 3 prongs, now it has 4. We advocate, we do our best to educate, we also listen. We try to help you all figure out what the best policies are for your jurisdictions. We work with the Monterey Bay Housing Trust. You'll hear from Julie Mahold from the Housing Trust later on our panel to bring money into affordable housing projects all around the region. We provide technical assistance. If you've heard from me in the last 7 or 8 months, hopefully I've given you something along those lines. You've probably given me some as well. We also try to coordinate and bring developers who are interested in bringing housing to your region. We try to get you all connected. And of course, employer-sponsored housing has always been on our radar. It's always been important, and it's only becoming more important. You're going to hear a lot more about that today. Back in June, you might have seen me on stage before. We released our housing white paper with 5 distinct policy recommendations. As a menu, of course, this is something I've emphasized everywhere I've had the chance across all 3 regions. The policies you see on screen here, streamlining permitting, increasing allowable densities, reforming impact fees, increasing funding sources for affordable housing, and optimizing your inclusionary housing ordinances. Not all of these fit everywhere, but some of them fit in at least one of the places represented here today. Our state legislature has been busy. If Speaker Rivas has a chance to, I hope he'll tell you more about his work there. SB 423 passed as an extension of SB 35, ideally to get more affordable housing in all of the counties where we work, including the coastal areas. SB 4 will allow educational institutions, higher educational institutions, such as that of Cabrillo College, as well as congregational institutions to build housing by right on their land. And of course, ACA 1 was led by our own, a lot of people that we work with in this room, as well as Matt Huerta, to help make it easier to get housing bonds passed around the state. This is going to be one of the most important sources of funding going forward to make sure that we have as much funding as possible to get as much housing built, especially for affordable housing. So what's next? We're making progress, slowly but surely. This is the process. We have to push. We're working through the housing element update process right now. A lot of our jurisdictions are well underway, and we're here to help along every step. So we're going to help you push for the policies you need to get affordable housing built and housing across all income levels. And then we'll be there to shepherd. We'll be there to help developers learn, cities learn how to make the policies work, because the state hasn't made it easy, but we are up to the challenge. And of course, we're going to connect you. If you've got policies that need interested developers, we're going to find them for you. We're going to convene as many meetings as we can with developers across the private sector, the public sector, nonprofit, for-profit, anybody who's willing to bring housing to this region, inclusive housing opportunities. We're here to work with them and find new ways. Innovation is the only way forward. I don't think I have to tell you that, but please keep it in mind. And then, of course, to continue to advocate for that innovation, whether it's in policy or in the kinds of projects we bring to the region. We have to make sure that we're getting on the same page in every jurisdiction and across each region so that we can push together, because if it's dissonant, it's not going to accomplish what we need. And then, of course, the state views it in 8-year cycles. The regional housing needs allocation, the housing elements, those are 8-year cycles. Time is a construct, but we have to keep iterating. The 7th cycle will be different. The requirements may be different as well, but we'll be ready to adapt. Okay, I mentioned employer-sponsored housing before. It's worth noting the Monterey Peninsula, the tourism hub of Monterey County, roughly 20,000 folks commute to this peninsula every single day across the different cities. Santa Cruz, almost 30,000 commute in. And guess what? More than 12,000 folks commute out of San Benito County every day. That's more people than work there. This is something we have to keep in mind as we think about whose employees need housing. Educational institutions, hospitality businesses, agricultural employers, and of course, healthcare You're going to hear from folks representing those industries today, what they're doing, and what they need from everybody in this room going forward. That was the wrong button. Here we go again. Teachers make typically right around $60,000. Nurses, more than double that. Hospitality workers, farm laborers, barely over 30,000. Those numbers you see there in different colors, colorized for emphasis. That's the amount of money, that's the amount of those typical incomes that they're spending on housing if they wanted to have their own place. Obviously, there aren't enough own places to have anywhere, and that's what we're working on. This is what's responsible for a lot of the overcrowding that we see. There are people living 4 or 5 to a home. There are 3 or 4 families to a home in certain cases. And this is why we've assembled a panel to represent these industries. We're going to have Matt Ware to come up, as well as the rest of our panel. Gentlemen, lady, come on up.
Thank you very much, Gabriel, for your fine work and setup here. We're going to keep this party going. We'll come back to that slide. Hold that for a second. Raise your hand if you think workforce housing is like a really, really intense situation right now. Keep them up if you think that this is like dire straits in terms of retaining your talent and or recruiting your talent. That's pretty much everybody. So that's why we're talking about this. We'll continue talking and taking action as much as we can. I'm going to take a seat in a second, but I first want to thank and introduce my panelists here. So we have Dr. Matt Wetstein, Superintendent, President of Cabrillo College. We have Greg Smorzewski, Vice President, Chief of Human Resources at Montage Health. Julie Mahowald, CFO and Head of Partnerships and Strategy for the Housing Trust of Silicon Valley. And we have Abraham Prado, Director of Planning and Building Services of San Benito County. So I like sitting here. Let me join my friends here. Thank you. There's 5 seats up here for a reason, right? Okay, so we're going to jump right into it, ladies and gentlemen. We have just about 30 minutes or so to go, and we want to get into some of the meat and potatoes of this. So, Matt Wetstein, sir, if you don't mind, the first question for you is, what is the most challenging aspect of your workforce housing development project that you're undergoing currently? And let us know how we can support your efforts, too.
Thank you, Matt. First, thanks for the invitation and MBEP for putting on this conference. We actually had on our slide that Gabe was showing earlier a mock-up of housing development that we will be doing jointly with UC Santa Cruz down in the corner there. But I want to focus first on workforce housing. One of the things that we did, I guess, 3 years ago, in 2019, the college partnered with an organization called Landed to be the first community college in the state to offer down payment assistance to employees of the college. And that is a company that was focused particularly on teachers and educators and had done so for Santa Cruz County educators even before approaching Cabrillo College and developing that partnership. I'd say that at least 20 of our employees have been able to enter into that program to get down payment assistance, to get a home in the county and be able to work in the region where they're working. So that's one effort that we've taken on. And the other one is we know from our surveys with our employees that the need is great. I love the term that Chris used earlier about the collective epistemic knowledge. Everybody in this room has that knowledge about housing problems, right? And that's certainly the case with our employees, but it's more acute even for students. And so the importance of the work that I've tried to do in the last 5 years is focused on affordability in housing for students. I serve on a CEO task force statewide of community college presidents, board members of governing boards of districts throughout the state. And we recently partnered to do a study of homelessness among students in the community college sector. More than 60,000 students filled out that survey last spring in a partnership with the Research and Planning Group of California Community Colleges. More than 20% of our students said that they were homeless within the last 12 months. That means that they've couch surfed, they're relying on friends or friends of friends to find a place to sleep. They don't have stable sleeping arrangements. 9% self-identified as being homeless at the time of the survey. 2/3 of the students expressed some form of either housing insecurity or food insecurity, meaning that they were cutting meals. They weren't sure whether they were going to have nutritious meals for the week. So the need among our student population is acute and something that we've lobbied for as a group of CEOs in the state level. So going back about 2 years ago, when the state surplus was very strong, we were lucky enough to advocate for a housing bill that actually turned into a $4 billion allocation for the building of student housing on UC, CSU, and community college campuses. A $4 billion investment that's really historic in thinking about the scale of investment to approach that problem. So we're lucky enough to have partnered with Chancellor LaRive, UCSC, and their team to put a proposal in to secure some of that money. And so Cabrillo and UCSC has a project that is planned for a $181 million student housing project with more than 620 beds. For our students at Cabrillo, 60% of those beds will be Cabrillo Community College student beds. And we know that in our community, those students are looking for housing and they cannot afford it. And as the data showed earlier, it's outrageous how much they would have to spend. Under our project, the students would pay about $950 per month rent and have very low rent, but it's a promise and a guarantee and a contract with them that they have to remain as a full-time student, pursue their studies with a 2.0 GPA, and try to complete within 2 years. And so what this will do is provide the ability for them to stop worrying about housing, accelerate and get through college faster, transfer to institutions like UCSC and CSU Monterey Bay, and become tax-paying citizens much faster. So we're pretty excited about the project. I want to thank Cindy and her team. I also want to say, he's not here, but Speaker Rivas, Assemblymember Pellerin, Addis, and this would not have happened without the support of Senator John Laird. So we're really grateful for that.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate your leadership. And yes, absolutely, it takes a significant amount of resources and leadership from all levels of government to make these public-private partnerships happen and deep investment. So thank you for lifting that up. I also want to hear from Julie, pivoting a little bit to kind of the lending scene. Julie, what is the most impactful advantage of working with the Monterey Bay Housing Trust and the Housing Trust of Silicon Valley loan product that you're offering? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks so much for having me today. It's great to see some familiar faces in the room, and I can't wait to meet new ones, new folks. Housing Trust is a community development loan fund, and we're a Housing Trust of Silicon Valley, but we work in 2 Bay areas, the San Francisco Bay Area and the Monterey Bay Area, mostly through our partnership with MBEP. We've been working together for 7 years now, Matt. It's crazy.
Time flies when you're having fun.
And it's a funding source for affordable housing developers. MBEP has raised the grant funds, and then Housing Trust brings the lowest cost capital we can so that we can increase housing opportunities in this region. To date, through the partnership, we've lent about $8 million. We've started up 640 homes here. We have 250 more units in the pipeline. I'm really excited about those projects coming up. And separately, Housing Trust has invested another $15 million in the region to date. At Housing Trust, we're few in employees, but mighty in impact, and part of how we do that is with our partnership with MBEP. because there are eyes and ears on the ground. They keep us posted on policy, what's happening, what are the needs in the area. And then they have been raising the grant capital that we then blend with our capital, which could be grant, could be money that we borrow. And again, we try to bring the lowest cost funding to developers, and we can do that through this partnership. We also at Housing Trust have strong investor relationships throughout the Bay Areas, the two Bay Areas, and we bring that patient capital, lower cost capital, and also a certainty of execution for our developers. One example we have that's in construction is we made a pre-development loan with the Monterey Bay Housing Trust funds at the riskiest part of the program of the development, and then when that project Pacific Station was ready for construction in Santa Cruz, we were able to bring a loan from our Apple Affordable Housing Fund with capital from Apple for the permanent loan on that development. This summer, in relation to this topic today of workforce housing, Housing Trust kicked off its strategic plan, and in that, as we renew our focus on the urgent affordable housing needs, we also recognize that we want to be part of the solution for the folks who are making over 80% AMI and still cannot find an affordable place to live, as we've seen in today's statistics. So we've long had a down payment assistance program, so we have been serving that demographic in the past, but we plan now to do more in the workforce, multifamily housing as well. And there's another fund down in Sonoma which copied the Monterey Bay Housing Trust because it was doing such great work. They came to us, the Santa Rosa Metro Chamber, and said, we want to do what you're doing in Monterey Bay. And through that fund, we now have a developer who's starting up 3 workforce housing projects. The one that has been approved is going to be 92 units, and 50% of those homes or apartments will be for those under 80% AMI, and the other 50% will be for those under 140%, so between 80 and 140%, because they also have a desperate need in that region for workforce housing. So we really look forward to talking to many of you today about what's going on and the needs. My colleague Stephanie Kipple is here. She is the guru of putting the deals together, so if you have questions, she'll be here to talk. And another way to accelerate the impact of our work would be additional donations to MBEP for the Monterey Bay Housing Trust, because they did raise a lot of grant capital and we could use more. And then we have a community impact note at Housing Trust that individuals, health systems could invest their excess cash, donor-advised funds, community foundations could invest, and we could direct that capital to work in this region as well. And banks could join the Monterey Bay Housing Trust directly in the loan pool. So there's lots of ways people could get involved. And thanks again.
Thank you, Julie. Appreciate that. And I don't know if everybody heard, but that's a call to action, y'all. So those of you out there with some burning desire to really participate in workforce housing and affordable housing in our region, here's another opportunity to participate. Thank you for lifting up as well Apple Funds. I mean, that's a world-class, amazing organization, right, that's growing its workforce, and they're putting some money behind that impact, right? But for those dollars, we would not have those other housing units being created in our region, and they've invested now in this region, in this Monterey Bay. So we have that to thank the Housing Trust for facilitating all those partnerships. Thank you very much for your support and partnership. And we will go to our friend Greg Zmorzewski. Greg, can you tell us what the top challenge is facing Montage Health and its ability to meet its workforce? Maybe give us some more color about that, please.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks for having me today. We've got a two-pronged issue. So first is what we've been hearing up here. So for some of our lower wage earners, and quite honestly, probably about 30% of our workforce, just trying to find affordable housing in the area where they can actually commute into one of our facilities in a timely fashion, not taking 90 minutes to get to work. The second is actually bringing high quality, specialized clinicians and physicians into our area and getting them to stay here. So it's a unique challenge in that we've got, kind of the top wage earners as well as some of the probably not quite as low as what we saw in hospitality. Yeah, one of the things that we've done, I'll give you 4 things that we're doing. First is that Community Hospital, which is the largest piece of Montage Health, has committed over the years to be in the 75th percentile of payers within healthcare within the state of California. That keeps us competitive. It allows individuals in our housekeeping departments, in our nutrition services departments, in our frontline registration departments to be able to afford housing here and not live in that, we all live paycheck to paycheck, but that ridiculous paycheck to paycheck living. What we've tried to do with housing over the course of the last, I'd say 7 years, we've purchased 2 properties, one on Lighthouse over in the New Monterey PG area, and then one over in Skyline Forest. They're blips though, right? We get 32 units, and most of those units are used to bring in new physicians, to bring in difficult to fill folks so that they have a place to land when they come into the area. We're not able to use many of those units for other folks. Second, we have a home loan program for all employees to use. It basically ends up becoming a second home loan that gets rid of the possibility of property mortgage insurance. So PMI goes out the window. We take the liability on that. Interest rates have made that program a little less successful over the course of the last year. And then finally, we've done similarly. We're working with Landed, and we've started an equity share program where we've launched that with our physicians. We offer a very it's a great program, and I think we're going to have a lot of success bringing people into the area with it. We've launched it with our physicians. If it's successful, then it's something that we'll look to do with other employees as well. But we have to take money out of what our normal investment income is, and so it has to have some return, or otherwise it won't be approved. But so right now, that's what's going on over at Montage Health.
Thank you, Greg. And that's amazing. The fact that they're taking it on right as best they can. You're in the healthcare business, not in the housing business. But now you know too much to go back. Now you got to deepen that investment, and we want to help facilitate that. Whether it's those rental housing, right, high quality rental housing to facilitate the partnerships with your physicians and other elements of your workforce, and then just this. There seems a lot of innovation going on in terms of facilitating home ownership and getting folks deeply invested here so that they can then provide the healthcare services. So that's what I heard today. Anything else you want to lift up about what you guys are going next? What you're going to do next?
You summarized it well, and that is definitely the goal. We want to be able to provide really high quality care for everyone who lives in Monterey County, and to do that, we need people to come here and stay here.
Amen. Thank you very much. Go ahead, Julie. Go ahead, Julie. What was that, Julie?
Housing. Housing is health. We especially learned that in the pandemic, right?
Amen. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Absolutely a direct line connection there. And finally, we want to hear some more from Abraham. Abraham, tell us a little bit more about the work that you're doing in San Benito County to facilitate more workforce housing in your role. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. It's an honor to be here. Thank you. So right now, Gabriel mentioned it earlier, we are currently working on our housing element update, San Benito County, just as I know that many jurisdictions throughout the state of California. I know Santa Cruz is working on theirs. I think their draft is actually out. Monterey is actually working on theirs as well. We're hoping that our draft will be out within the next month or so. But as you well know, Matt, and I know many of you also, the housing element update is a very crucial, very important document to our jurisdictions required by the state, Housing and Community Development. Essentially, it's a document, a living document. It talks about the housing needs of our community. Very, very important. Affordable housing, workforce housing, special needs housing, and overcrowding, all these different aspects that we as a jurisdiction should research about, should know about, and then very importantly, goals and policies to try to address these needs. In this particular case, our sixth cycle from 2023 to 2031. And so, as you were mentioning, with workforce housing, we have various sectors, but I think the most pressing ones that we've seen is, as Gabe also mentioned at the beginning, farm worker housing. We have a very big need for that, and various employers seeking that, and I bet that that's also the case for Monterey and Santa Cruz, being that this is a rich agricultural area. We also have needs for local government housing that we've been hearing a lot about, our police, our fire admin. We have needs for teacher housing and needs for healthcare housing as well. Others as well, we have a big manufacturing sector in San Benito County and in the areas. But those are the ones that are, I can say, more pressing that we've been hearing a lot about. And so one of the things that we've been doing in regards to our housing element update is we've been trying to outreach all these different sectors. And for example, one of the ways that we outreach, we sent out a survey to San Benito High School. We sent out a survey to the employees of the county of San Benito. And we're collecting data at the moment, but some of the information that we heard, for example, in the county of San Benito employees, which may resonate with Monterey and Santa Cruz, is that the majority of the people that actually work for San Benito County actually live in San Benito County, which is different than how Gabriel mentioned, the overall population in San Benito County being close to 67,000. The majority of the workforce, over 60%, commute. And they commute out of town, mostly to like Santa Clara County. And so what we heard from the employees is that their households, being that, you know, from one member household to 7-member households or more, is that their average median income for their households, we're looking at about 70% to about 120% of the area median income. Area median income in San Benito County currently is at $140,200, which we feel is highly inflated because the majority of the people work out of the county, especially like in Santa Clara County, where their average median income is upwards of $180,000. So that's a big factor there to consider. And so what we're seeing, and what the very important picture that this has painted for us, is that we are seeing families, say for example, a family of 4 in this particular sector, the government working in San Benito County, that are making between 100, 120,000, even, you know, upwards of 170,000, and so that category there pushes those households out of the affordable housing component and into the regular market rate. And as we were hearing earlier, the big issue there is that the average single-family home in San Benito County is going for $801,000. So there is that gap where if the household's not going to qualify for affordable housing, which that itself is a big issue. Not too long ago, San Benito County approved 49 affordable housing units. Along, I see representatives of Chispa, and there was over 1,100 applications for those 49 units. So that's a whole issue of itself. But for the families that are above the earning wage of affordable housing, you know, the issue is, how do they afford the $801,000 mortgage? So that's where, you know, workforce housing come into play. That's where the housing element comes into play. That's where partnerships with MBEP comes into play, to create policy to try to address, you know, workforce housing, work with developers, work with nonprofit organizations, for-profit organizations, to provide a certain percentage of housing that can address maybe over that 80% area median income, but maybe put a cap at, say, 200% of the area median income, so that way there can be opportunities for workforce housing. And I think that we're still getting information for the teachers and nursing, but in healthcare, but that can, you know, be more or less compatible with the local government. But when it comes to farm worker housing, we feel that it's very, very important that we had this Farm Worker Housing Act passed, and I know that Assembly Speaker Rivas was a big part of it, and Rivas is from San Benito County, so just a quick shout out there.
Shameless plug, shameless.
We're very happy about, and so that's important. That's crucial because it streamlines the need. In our last housing element workshop, we had a good representative of farm worker that were there, and they were saying we are in that 30% or low of the average medium income. We are the ones that are making $17,000 a year, $24,000 a year, and we want housing. We want to have to live in dignity in a house and not be living in overcrowded situations and so forth and so on. So it is very important to try to collaborate and provide the housing that for all different sectors. And so for the farm worker housing, the Farm Worker Act has allowed for jurisdictions to be able to provide farm worker housing as long as the housing is going to be for people who are working in agriculture and not necessarily have to go through the whole conditional use permit process, which is costly, time consuming, and takes a while. There's a lot of red tape on it. But the main issue there is that there's still a lot of things that need to align. For example, there's a certain limit that can be placed on each property for farm worker housing, but we still need to make sure that there's proper water, there's proper septic, there's proper utilities, and a lot of these parcels are outside of the periphery of cities where there is municipal water service, municipal sewer service, and so those are the things that we have to work with in collaboration, because just to be able to see if there's sufficient water, if the wells are not contaminated, if they're going to be able to serve, if there's going to be proper septic. I just recently worked with the property owner, and their engineer quoted at upwards of $20,000 just to see, if farm worker housing was available on these parcels. And so those are the things that I think, in collaboration with MBEP, I think the networking would definitely be very helpful to be able to bring in and collaborate with, for-profit or nonprofit organizations that can help us to create these types of housing.
Thank you, Abraham. And there's a lot there, a lot going on. So much need at all these different levels, right? And so he's reminding us how complicated this is. Not quite rocket science, but almost. And so raise your hand if you have participated at all in any of the housing element workshops in your city or county. Okay, y'all, so we're getting about a C right now. We need to get that to an A, okay, as soon as we can. So I will be following up with you. Everybody needs to start raising their hand pretty soon. Just find the nearest workshop in your community, because those of you that are leading, everybody here is a leader in your, in your space of work, and everybody has a piece of this solution. So find out what it means to create more workforce housing in your jurisdiction, and that way you can help folks like Abraham update their plans and get it right? And then we march down and try to get it done all together. So we just have a couple quick minutes. I just want to very quickly, a little lightning round. We tend to stay and focus on our lanes, right? Healthcare, education, government, and just lift up one other kind of area that you hope to make a lot more traction in this next year in terms of partnerships in another lane, and just quickly in one sentence, why? Go ahead, Abram.
So yeah, for us right now, essentially it's the housing need. Be able to provide opportunities for those, especially families that are in need, and try to create a response to the overcrowding situation that we have in some families and some of the sector of our community, and be able to partner to be able to try to see how we can respond to those very, very important needs.
Thank you. Greg?
Yeah, Julie mentioned something earlier about housing being health. There's a lot of different things that go into health. I think some of the things we're doing is trying to get in early ages and get into the schools with our children. We have various programs. Probably the most public right now is our Ohana program that is live already, but the building will be finally inhabited in November. And then second is our Kids Eat Right program, where we're going in and we are going into third and fourth grade classes throughout Monterey County and teaching kids and their families how to eat correctly. Taking away some of those future healthcare costs will then provide more money for housing and other things that are needed. So definitely some of the things we're looking at.
Thank you, Greg.
The climate crisis. We are hoping to, as a CDFI, with other CDFIs, access some of the capital to be coming from the federal government and be able to work with our developers and get some of that capital out and working to help the climate crisis. And I don't think I have to say why.
Thank you, Julie. You might have to, no, there's some deniers out now. But real quick, CDFI, who knows what CDFI stands for? Community Development Finance Institution. Yay. Go ahead, Matt.
I am going to elevate childcare into the conversation, and I'll do it in a couple of ways. One is to say that I think on a state and federal level and policy approach, there has to be a discussion, a greater discussion about funding childcare, subsidizing childcare services, and also incentivizing placement of childcare into these kinds of projects like the one that we're talking about building on our campus. And just broadly, all of us, I think, found out during COVID the importance of childcare to our economy. And we do not do enough as regional leaders to raise that into the conversation about how it affects the economy writ large.
Thank you very much. And with that mic drop, thank you very much. We are completed with this panel. Thank you very much, Chancellor, if you want to take us to the next thing. Thank you, panelists.